The Buffalo Bills just robbed the NFL. Last night was the 2025 NFL Draft, where the Bills scored cornerback Maxwell Hairston for their 30th pick. This will have huge impacts on their defense this season and could be the factor that pushes the Bills towards that Super Bowl win. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel for all latest updates during this draft and more. First, I want to talk about why Hairston was the Bills' first choice. So for starters, the Bills were just looking for a cornerback in general. That's something that's been a little bit lacking. They're trying to fill the gaps with free agencies and the draft. And the Bills' defense has been okay, but I think bringing in new players like Hairston will really help elevate them and bring them up to par with our offense. Our offense is already so strong, but if we make little changes and bring in new players to the defense, I think that could help really push the Bills over that hump. Hopefully beat the Chiefs and possibly make it into the Super Bowl. I know that's thinking far ahead, but from what I'm seeing with the free agency and the draft so far, the Bills have been making some really good choices. Maxwell is out of Kentucky, and he's clearly used to that SEC competition. That's one of the best leagues in the NCAA, and I think playing against elite quarterbacks, elite offenses, that really helps prepare him because the transition from college to the NFL can be really tough on players, but he's already used to that serious competition, so hoping that will be easy for him. He's also just an extremely versatile and athletic player. In his time at Kentucky, he had 6 interceptions, with 3 of those for touchdowns, and put up 130 yards off those interceptions in a season. He also, something notable about him is that he ran a 4.28 40-yard dash in the NFL Combine this year, and that was the fastest 40-yard dash time. So I think that's also something that we were lacking in the cornerback department. It's just someone with that speed. We obviously do have great players, but bringing in a player like that that's very unique with that skill set, I think that could really help them push over the edge. He also, like I said, very versatile. He plays in man and zone, which is what the Bills are more known for their zone. He also lines up inside and outside the slot, which gives the defensive coordinator more options, and he can just play in a lot of different spots, which is good. Something that's been brought up about Maxwell is just that his size is a little bit smaller. He's not over 6 foot, and that's something that, he's going up against huge wide receivers. So that's something that could be a factor, but we have had shorter cornerbacks like that, so I'm hoping that's not a problem. The Bills also utilize their cornerbacks and secondary to actually tackle, which isn't as common in other teams, so it was also brought up if he'd be able to tackle and make moves like that, because some people say that he's more uses his speed than technique to tackle, but Beane in an interview stated that Maxwell is prepared, he's willing to tackle, so I think that's something that just a good sign. That might not be his strength or his skill set, but the fact that he's willing to do it and just getting himself with the Bills defense. Another thing about Maxwell that I love is just his personality. He went viral during the draft. This says, find yourself a hype man like Maxwell Hairston. Love to see his genuine joy for his fellow draft prospects. And yeah, he went viral for this because as the picks were going by, he just was applauding them and very excited. And that's not something you always see because he is basically getting passed up by these players. And he sat for 3 hours. He stood up. The video is pretty long, and it's little clips of him getting up for 10 different players, and I think that's a really amazing thing, which will help him fit in with the Bills because the Bills have such a good camaraderie and good energy on the team. So I think that's also something that makes you want to pick this player to be on their team. In his interview after the draft, he was just infectious with his laugh, his energy. He was joking around. He talked about how he joked around on the phone with Josh Allen about if he picks him off in practice, he's going to keep the ball. So he just has such a good energy that I think will make him fit in with Buffalo. And that's what a lot of people were saying on Twitter and on social media, that this is a perfect player for Buffalo. So I think I'm definitely excited to see that. He also played with Ray Davis, and he talked about how he's excited to back up with him, and that Davis will kind of help him settle into the team and give him the ins and outs. And that's also a player that I really like. I think that's a great pairing. All these factors, his athleticism, his playmaking abilities, and his personality, I think make him a great choice for the Bills. So I was really excited to see this, and I'm also excited to see what the Bills do in the future. And people were definitely applauding the Bills on their choice. This came from CBS Sports personality Pete Briscoe, who said, Kentucky's Maxwell Hairston might be one of my favorite players in the entire draft. I love the Buffalo Bills taking him in the first round. They have a major need at corner. Hairston will step in right away and start. So yeah, that is what the hope is, and I think a lot of other analysts were saying this. They gave the Bills an A on that rating in the draft, And they do have a major need in the corner. That's very accurate. So it might not be as common to take a cornerback that early on, but I think the Bills definitely made the right choice. And speaking of starting and what his role will be, I want to talk about that next, because bringing in a new player like that, there could be some changes. So with the first round pick, you do want a starter. You want someone that can, come right on and play well. But I think we kind of have to see what happens with that. He's definitely capable of doing this. He is very athletic and has good energy on and off the field. But I think it just kind of depends on what happens in preseason and in the first few games. The defense, we just brought on Tre'Davious White and Dane Jackson, who are former Bills players, so they came back as cornerback. White specifically, he is not in his prime as much anymore. He had a lot of injuries since being on the Bills, but I think it's nice to have some veteran players on the team to show him the ropes. And I think it was very exciting to bring back former players like that. And the Bills obviously have Christian Benford, who is just a star. I think he's an amazing player and one of the best players the Bills have. In an interview after the draft, the general manager, Brandon Beane, said that we feel good that we've got guys there if Maxwell isn't ready. It'll be an open competition like we do everywhere of who will win that job opposite Christian, and may the best man win. And I really like that energy, because not just saying that just because he's the draft pick, the first round, that he's going to be starting and he's going to get that role right away. And I think it's also interesting because the Bills did draft Elam in the first round a couple years ago, and they ended up not using him. Benford actually was drafted in the 6th round. He stepped up because he just really had a breakout year. And so it kind of shows that it's anyone's game in that way. And notably also in the interview, after the draft with Maxwell, he talked about how he's really excited to learn from players like Benford because of his start. He didn't come off as a first rounder, even though Maxwell did. And I think Maxwell would say he's excited to learn from him, learn how he keeps on playing, and what some of his advice is from him. So that was exciting to see. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting was I saw a comparison between Hairston and Tre'Davious White at the time he was drafted, which is obviously different. They're both 5'11", in the 190 pounds. Their wingspan is about the same. Obviously, Harrison's 40-yard dash was just unreal, so that's a little bit different. But their 10 split was the same, and they're SEC tested. So I think that was kind of a cool example, because Tre'Davious White was so good on the Bills, especially when he first drafted. His rookie season, he was playing like he'd been in the league for years, and I think that's what people are hoping for Hairston. Obviously, it doesn't happen in all situations, but I think it'd be so exciting if he kind of had a similar start to Tre'Davious White, and just seeing White's personality. He's such a stand-up guy, and I just love his personality. So I'm hoping that Hairston kind of embodies that, and also can learn from a person like White, who spent so many years with the Bills and has spent years playing against elite competition like that. So he definitely has great players to look up to. And overall, I think this is such an exciting pick for the Bills. It was a great start out. I love making defensive changes, because we know the offense just doesn't need as many changes like that. We've clearly proved that we have quarterbacks that are great, wide receivers, running backs. So I think that's very exciting that the defense is getting some upgrades. And I think in the next couple of days in the draft, they might be looking to pick up a defensive lineman or a safety, which could also help elevate the defense. We'll definitely be monitoring that in the future, and we'll have some other videos. So please subscribe to hear more about the draft in the future. Thank you for watching, and go Bills.